Evening, folks, and welcome to the View podcast. Joined tonight by Lockie, as per usual, I suppose, outside of the odd uni night. And Joe's jumping back in, gives a dig out again tonight, just finishing his lunch. Evening, folks. Before we get into the game, we're going to do the review on the Coventry City game. We're going to have a chat about just our thoughts on what the last two games have kind of produced and what Leeds need to do going into the next couple of games. A very, very big game against Ipswich Town coming up at the weekend as well. Before we get into any of that, Lockie, how you doing, mate? How's your weekend?
Yeah, all right. Just slowly dragging to the end of the first semester at uni. The last bit, it's long and frustrating, but we're almost there. So I'm all right, getting there.
Good. Nearly there, mate. Nearly there. Joe, how you doing, mate?
Good, mate. Yeah, long day, busy day, but yeah, I'm eating food now and chilling out. So thank you for asking me to come on, bro.
No problem at all. No problem at all. I was like, we might have Andrew Dalton, aka LUFC Stats, might be jumping in at some point. Might not be, but he's wiggling things around at the moment, so he might be able to join us at some point as well. We'll get Andy's thoughts on things as well. Plenty of people in the chat as well. I'll stick the chats up on comments. Any questions you have for myself, Joe, or Lucky, if you want to stick them in the chat, I'll save them and we'll cover them at the end if there's anything you want to know. The hardest working ITK finding time to eat. Are you an ITK, Joe? Are you an ITK?
No, definitely not. I mean, I did predict the Anthony stuff back in October.
It's the intro, mate. It's the intro. As I told you it would.
Yeah. I don't tell you all the things I got wrong, though, Joe.
None of us do that, Joe. None of us do that. Hit that to our chest. Right, let's just crack on and get into this. Lockie, start with you, mate. Thoughts on the game before we break it down to its smaller elements. What's your top line on what you thought of the match and how things went?
Yeah, obviously I've been keeping in touch with everything that's going on online and everything recently, and I've not done loads of shows and stuff like that, but I tend to. Well, I always am. I'm always more on the kind of positive side of things, but not. I don't know. I think I just still trust. I don't just watch one or two performances and think, right, that season done. I think that's too kind of short termed. I think we have to look at what we are, what we do have in that team, and on days where it clicks or days where we look good, we look really good, and we look unstoppable at times. I've just always had this same thing of balance and understanding us and what we are and how aggressive we can be or how passive we are, and finding that mix. And I think that showed at Coventry. We started off really well. We had a problem near the start of the season, starting off slow. We figured that out. But as you know, Jay, you coach. It's almost impossible to maintain that. It is. Teams don't come out constantly. But you don't tell people saying Farke told them to slow down. A manager don't tell the team to slow the tempo. They tell them to relax, get hold of the ball. And it's just them little things for me. It's game control, stuff like that we seem to struggle with. But sorry, I went on a bit long there. But I just think I'm not as worried. I'm just not there yet. I think there's a lot to go into. There's a lot you can analyze. Obviously, there's a lot you can talk about, and there's definitely discussions. But people questioning the manager in terms of getting him fired, you can question tactics, obviously, but getting him fired and not wanting him, I've seen that. I think that's crazy at this point. Genuinely, I don't get it. Sorry.
I agree. I agree. I mean, there's issues there. And myself and Joe were chatting earlier on about this as well. And you've got to be able, when you're winning games, you've got to be able to look at the game and say, yeah, we won that game. You've got to look for patterns that can go against you. And you can see it over a couple of games going, well, that's the thing that keeps happening in these games, every game. And it's right, fair enough for winning games. It's not bothering us at the moment, but you worry then, is that the thing that's going to undo you at some point? And you talked about slowing things. A manager, and I've as a coach and as a manager, I've never told a team to slow down. What I've told them is composure.
Yeah.
Be composed on the ball. Move the ball quickly, but be composed in possession of the ball. Leeds have no issue with possession. Leeds have tons of possession. The question mark now is, what are we going to do with that possession? What are we doing with that possession? Because I think there's an element of figuring us out a little bit, starting to happen with a couple of teams. We've seen the low block now consistently become a problem. So there are bits in there, but yeah, I don't think I've ever seen a manager ask a team to slow down. And I'm not looking for Daniel Farke's head by any shadow here at all. I think it's important that when you win games, you analyse them both sides, good and bad. And when you lose games, you analyse them good and bad. And there were some good parts at the start of the game, specifically. There were some good performances. I thought Joe Rodon was excellent. Again, I thought Pascal Stroud was pretty good as well in the game. Joe, what did you think of the match all up as your top line thoughts on the game?
don't think it was that bad, and I don't think this is the general consensus. I think people were shocked when I said that yesterday on the final word. On another, I know it without danger of just repeating myself. On another day, we get a couple of goals. I think Dan James shouldn't go down when he did for the penalty, or tried to buy a foul. It was such a silly decision, whether or not he had the confidence. When you actually see the chance back that he had, I actually thought a defender, but it was just a poor effort. So he could have won it there. There's a few opportunities. Look, the thing is, they had one chance in this score, and I think it's so frustrating. And I think it's unfair for those that still try and find a way to dig out Meslier for that. It's because it's the two defenders for me. I think he comes out and he's in no man's land. That's just my opinion. I think the issue for me was it were a set piece and a corner, and the centre back's heading it in. It's like, why is he even up there? It was
two in the box as well.
Yeah, exactly. It's just what I'm saying. Where was Grace? So there's issues there. So I think it's just it's bigger because of the gap that we've got from the top two. And I know people are getting annoyed at me saying this, but in a normal season, we'd be all right. And I know people don't want to hear that, but I just think for me, the Coventry performance wasn't all that bad. And I know that's not the general consensus. So I may be, massively wide of the mark with that. But that's just my opinion. I think we did all right. I actually thought his subs were good as well this time. I thought Nonto really injected something. Yes, Bamford just stood around. It was nice to see Joffy. It wasn't just the same personnel all the time. So I actually thought his sub, the Joffy sub definitely worked. But I think, in case of going on too long, sorry, Joe. I think Pirro, when we're playing teams that are going to or start to go into a low block, or even start with a low block, I don't think Pirro's the man for that game, and we need to then start changing it around. But whether or not I already know Farke's not going to. I spoke to a Norwich fan earlier on. It is what it is. We got to like it, man. Got to like it.
Yeah, you should definitely go and check that out on Joe's channel. I won't go into too much detail unless Joe wants to talk about it later on, but it's an eye-opening interview with a Norwich City fan who goes through all the detail of everything that we need to know and everything that we saw. So it's Andrew, how are you doing, mate? Sorry, throwing you out the last second. There's a couple of things in what you said, Joe. I don't think it's all that bad. And people are going to they'll say it in the chat here, but it's not last season. So again, I'll do it in your show last week. Let's refrain it. In every single other season, Leeds be in the top two on the current points total, right? And Andrew, you can tell me I'm completely wrong on the exact number at some point if you want to. But I think in general, Leeds are in that top two based on current points total, right? The problem is you've got two teams that are ripping ahead and not dropping points where you're hoping to. We were in 5 points. We were in touching distance of Ipswich to a point where if we hadn't dropped points at Blackburn and we hadn't dropped points against Sunderland, you could be playing Ipswich next week to go second. That's what I think is annoying people. On the Meslier thing, we've talked on your show, Joe, about an agenda. There are criticisms to be made of Dylan Meslier. He is a young goalkeeper. Of course, there are criticisms that we will make of him. However, trying to find a reason to criticize him, I think, is excessive. It's harsh and it needs to stop. It's the same people online who will, the second he does something wrong, are out with a big, huge statement. This guy's a crap goalkeeper. But there's never a peep out of him. There's never a word when he does something really, really good. They stay quiet until there's something to go and be outraged about, which I disagree with. I've gone back and I've looked at the goal, but I've tried to break the goal down. Let's start it. Glenn Kamara loses the ball in a silly position and should not lose that ball, right? That's number one. That doesn't happen. That goal doesn't happen. End of story. And there's a really clever bit of work from Sims, and you got to give Coventry a little bit of credit in this as well. Sims comes out to the corner flag to get the ball, and he brings Joe Rodon with him. So we've seen this in a couple of weeks where, for whatever reason, Daniel Farke is asking the centre-backs to man-mark a striker. He runs out, Rodon goes out with it. That takes Rodon out of the game completely. Sims passes the ball back, and it's whipped straight into the gap where Rodon would normally be. He's not there. And then you always ask any attacker when you're attacking across, get between the defenders, get between the two of them. And he does exactly that. He gets right between Stroke, who's trying to run backwards. We've talked again before about how hard it is to get up in the air when you're running backwards. And then Archie's too slow to react. So, I mean, if you're going to point, Ilan Meslier is 4 yards away from that header. He's got two defenders in front of him dealing with that job, and yet somebody manages to say, well, Meslier is at fault for that goal. And I just, again, if the goalkeeper's at fault for every single goal that we concede, he wouldn't be in the team. The fact that we're conceding goals regularly now, we've only got 7 clean sheets all season. We are conceding goals fairly regularly, and they're not all the goalkeeper's fault. They are defensive mistakes. They are defensive capabilities that have been dropped off. So it's not always down to the goalkeeper. It's too easy and too cheap to point to the goalkeeper and go, oh, it's his fault. And again, I talk about this. If you watch football and you watch it properly, go watch that goal back and just watch what Sims does with Joe Rodon. It's a very clever bit of football and just pulls him out. If he wasn't man marking, Joe Rodon probably stays central and asks the fullback to pick him up, and then you're fine again. But he doesn't, and it doesn't. And they score from 4 yards out. Asking a goalkeeper to save a downward header inside 4 yards is crazy.
And I think just to add to that as well, Jay, just to add to that quickly. And again, the way in which we lost it, we were not set up in a position where we could really allow Sims, because we didn't have the numbers back, because we'd lost it in a dangerous position where we'd committed, right? So we're already recovering, and then confusion sets in. It's like, well, whose man's that? And then he goes out, and then that's where it all starts. So, and then also Jess Spence as well, just simple thing like just getting tighter to the man. He skips it past him, doesn't he? Because obviously he's on his weaker side and don't do enough to do the cross. It's just goals like that. It's stuff like that, isn't it?
Yeah. I wonder how many goals the people that dig out Meslier, I wonder how many times they look at all the other goalkeepers in the league, genuinely watch their goals that they concede and find out if there's blame in them, because every goalkeeper in the league seems to be an outstanding goalkeeper except for the one that we have, which would suggest to me that the people that are making those comments don't watch those games and don't watch the matches and are just making up things and throwing names out. So yeah, it's one that I've begun to get more and more irritated with, because he's done fine this year. He's made some brilliant one-on-one saves. He makes a really good blind save in the first half, lifting the first one into bent around the centre back, and he can't see that ball till it comes around him. Makes a very good save, pushes it away. He does some very, very good things in the game. I think, again, if you're going to keep digging out a 22-year-old goalkeeper, you're likely to be embarrassed in a couple of years' time when he's a really, really good goalkeeper and he's not with us anymore. And then you're like, oh, we sold him. Can't believe we sold him. And it'll be the same people that will come out outraged that we let the player go. And that's the thing. It's the same people all the time with all that. Anyway, enough soapbox. Andy, how are you doing, mate? How are you? And thank you for joining the podcast. How are you doing?
No problem. Thank you for the invite. So just finished my. So I was giving my thoughts then. And I've kind of listened to what all you've said. I'm quite positive. I'm not one of these negative people when it comes to Leeds United, and I kind of agree with what Joe said. In any other season, Leeds would be top 2 at this stage of the season. We were a Dan James miss away from beating Coventry on Saturday and not having all these conversations. We created enough chances to win the game, and on the day, personally, I thought Coventry came for a point. I thought they defended very well. I thought, as you rightly said, Ellison for the part of the goal, for Thomas, did really, really well. And I think sometimes you're not going to win every game in this league. Okay, I know people say Leicester and Ipswich have done. Ipswich lost at West Brom. Leicester lost at Everton Hull this season. Leicester lost away at Middlesbrough, who had a bit of a dip. It's a strange old league, the Championship. Yes, I think we need to beat Ipswich on Saturday to just possibly put a bit of pressure on them. And obviously Ipswich play Leicester on Boxing Day while Leeds go to Deepdale. This can all change round. I want to take you back to season 95-96, back in the Champion or the Odd Division 1. Millwall were top of the league at Christmas. They got relegated. That's how quickly it can change in 23 games. There is a lot of points to be played for here. We've still got 75 points to play for. Somewhere along the lines, Ipswich and Leicester will have a dip. Leeds have just got to be ready to attack that dip and be ready for it. Another thing, look back at 18-19. Leeds beat Aston Villa to go top of the league on December the 23rd at Villa Park. First ever team not to get promoted by being top of the Championship at Christmas. And up in the playoffs, lost to 10-man Wigan, of course, in April. And the ceiling kind of filtered out at the back end of April. There's a lot of football to be played yet. Okay, if we've got 6 games to go, and then Leicester and Ipswich are this far ahead, then fair enough. But I'm not one of these doomsayers that say season's over. It's not. There is 24 games left to play yet for Leeds United, starting with Ipswich on Saturday. Take one game at a time. We've got a busy festive period. We've got Ipswich at home on Saturday, then to Deepdale, then to West Brom, then to Birmingham City at home on New Year's Day. I think the table will look very different then to what it is now, and somewhere along the lines, Ipswich and Leicester will have a dip in form, and Leeds have to be ready to capitalise on that, really.
So you're saying top 2 by January 1st starts? Is that what you're saying?
Well,
I keep
I think we'll be closer to the top 2 than we are at the moment. Leicester are going to lose a lot of players to the AFCON in January, which is another thing to sort of take into consideration. And Ipswich will have a dip somewhere along the lines. And if they don't, fair play to them, deserve to go up. What I think a lot of fans have got to remember is this is a completely new squad. We dropped out of the Premier League last season, and deservedly so, that we deserve to drop out of the Premier League. And the first month of the season, unfortunately, was always going to be a tough month, as Farke even admitted in the press conferences against sort of Cardiff City, Birmingham City, West Brom, etc. And then we won at Ipswich. So there's a lot of football to be played. Pressure can do funny things to a lot of people. I remember sitting at Allen on Easter Monday for that Wigan game in 2019. I think Sheffield United had lost on the previous game. Leeds had beaten Millwall. We all thought Leeds were going to go up then. And then lo and behold, Leeds lose to Wigan at home, and bang, it all sort of falls to pieces. And pressure can do very funny things, especially to teams that have never been in this position before. Kieran McKenna's done a wonderful job at Ipswich. Fair play to them. If they don't have a blip, fair enough. But throwing the towel in with 75 points to play, in my opinion, is ridiculous. You're not 25 points, you're 75 points to play for. And if it's to be the playoffs, it's to be the playoffs. Look, we have to break records sometime. I'm running a third kit since Blackburn. Done that now. Need to win an away kit, mind you. Probably have at West Brom. But there's a lot of football to be played for. And sometimes you have to hold your hands up and say that the opposition did a job on Leeds on Saturday, which personally I thought they did. I thought they defended really, really well. They took the goal really well. But at the end of the day, Jan James scores that in stoppage time. Leeds win the game. And it's all positive rather than doom and gloom.
Yeah,
I think what I'm going to add to that stats is I think it's fair to say that Leicester and Ipswich are massively overperforming, right?
Massively.
We're not performing bad. We're just performing well. They're overperforming, and it's just about that evening out, I guess.
Of course it is.
Just going on a bit of a run like that. And I look at Daniel Farke's time at Norwich, naturally. That's when he won the league twice. And I remember when we beat them, and there were people then, I've spoke to you about this, Joe, already. There were people then saying, Farke out, it's not good enough, it's not good enough. You know, I mean, when he was at Norwich and Leeds beat him, on the BLC, And they weren't doing great. And then after that, they went on a crazy run of 15 games where I think they lost one and drew 2 and then won the rest. And again, the season after, when they got relegated and they came back, they went on a similar run.
Correct.
And they lost a game, and then people questioning went on a crazy run again. The last 10 games as well of each season, apart from obviously when they'd already won the league, they dropped off a little bit. Solid. This guy knows the pressure, like you said about the pressure. He's been here, he's done it twice. He knows, he keeps saying in his things, last 10 games, let's see the last 10 games. He keeps saying that for a reason, because he knows they can do things to your mind pressure-wise. And we saw it with Leeds under Bielsa's first season. You know, we had the injuries, we had the issues, but we balled it a little bit in the end, didn't we?
Yeah.
It's when it gets this close. It's when you can see the finish. At the moment now, it's just playing games. That's all they've been told. Don't look at the league table. Don't look at the fixtures. Play the game, win the game, move on to the next game. Once you get past turn of the year, you're going to start glancing at it. These players are going to start looking at it. It's going to become questions that are going to be asked in press conferences before games. The players are going to be asked them online. It's going to happen. And that's when it starts to sink in. And it's not. And if you've not been in the situation, so like Ipswich having, I suppose, a slight advantage having the bounce, but then, you know, Leeds had that bounce the first year we went into the championship after getting promoted. We went up there and then we fell away. So that will happen. And if you look at the potential fixtures, just in taking the 3 teams in the top 3, for example, if Ipswich are 10 points ahead of us, if they lose to Leicester twice, which is very possible, and then they lose to Leeds in Ellen Road, that's 9 points. Assuming Leeds can win games, and that's
correct.
You're down to 1 point. 1 point. And that's very cheap. You're not factoring into that West Brom playing them. You're not factoring Southampton playing them, and you're not factoring in Sunderland playing them, because West Brom have just snuck up the table behind everybody as well, and they're sitting there, and Corbran's getting some really good performances out of that team as well. So there are teams in there that can take points. We've seen it. Now for Leeds, it needs to be a case of just tidying up a few little bits, figuring out a few new things, because, you know, we'll get into the squad rotation as well and players, but when it's not working, how long do we persist with it not working before we change the style, or we change the players, or we change the formation, or what do we do? And that's the question. It's a case of Leeds looking after themselves. We said after the game last week against Sunderland, we're going to drop more points this season. We're going to lose more games this year. It is guaranteed to happen. We are not going to go from now until the end of the season 3 points in every single game. It's just not going to happen. So there has to be maybe we're having our wobble now. Maybe this is the wobble. This is Leeds, because the start of the season for me doesn't count. And given everything that we went through at the start of the season, and to be in a position where we could be an automatic position, I think is a positive thing. So there are some positives. I do want to talk about the team sheets a little bit if we can get into that. Joe, start with you in the corner. We work back around. When you saw, because you did the watch along, when you saw the team sheet come out, were you surprised at all, or were you hopeful of something different and then kind of resigned to the fact that, well, we all assumed he won't change the team?
I wasn't surprised, mate. I wasn't surprised at all. No, I think we've come to. I'm careful of like now thinking I always knew this just because after speaking with Jacob, the Norwich fan, that this is the Farke way, because I don't want that to seep in. I did think we might see a little bit of rotation. I'm still hopeful that after Nonto's substitute appearance that he gets a call up, because it was only last week in the presser for this very game that Daniel Farke said, if players are showing me on the pitch or training like it's the Champions League, he said, but one of them was, if they're showing me on the pitch, well, for me, Willie Gnonto did enough in that game to show that he deserves a place in the side. So I'm more hopeful that we'll see changes this weekend for Ipswich. If we don't, then it's a case of, well, he's never fucking going to change it. I think the most illuminating thing for me, having spoke to Jacob, the Norwich fan, please do check out the video, folks, if you've got time to.
Yeah, do.
Is the fact that he said Ollie Skip played every single game under Daniel Farke. Every single minute. And that makes me think Gruyev's done. Gruyev's never getting time. Like, the only way Gruyev gets minutes is if Ampadu gets injured. And, Skip did get injured with a couple of games to go, but it was a foot injury. He broke his foot. It wasn't like a breakdown of a snapped hamstring or anything, or a muscle injury. He broke his foot. So I was like, oh, okay, well, at least he didn't break down in your normal kind of way. But yeah, it just made me resign to the fact. And also when Daniel Farke had said, even when Ampadu's bad, he still has a 7 out of 10. And I'm not for anything. My agenda isn't get Ampadu out of the side. That isn't what I'm saying. But it's just a case of like, he's wedded to his 11. And the only way you get in is if there's an injury or a suspension. And if you play well enough, you will keep that place, because Jacob also mentioned, I don't remember him at the time, but a midfielder by the name of Sorensen, who ended up filling in at left back, played really well there, never got displaced, even though the left back came back. And we sort of seen that after the suspension to Rodon, Cooper came in and then he kept his place. And we were like, why? And we were poor. And then he changed it back. But I think he's very much of the case of you're only getting in out of necessity. And if you're good enough when you do get in, then you'll keep your place. So I think we have to sort of like it and lump it. Unfortunately, it's true though. I'm not saying for 1 second we can't be critical, we can't like it. After the Pirro Rutter chat, I was like, yeah, I'm on board with it. Pirro scored. I'm like, yeah, Farke's right. Now I'm going, we need to have a conversation about this again. Do you know what I mean? But ultimately, you're not going to change.
We get away with that, Joe, and he gets away with that comment if Pirro is scoring every second game. But he's not scoring every second game.
No,
and then the question back, right, well, when he doesn't score, what does he? Again, it's not a criticism of Joe Pirro in the slightest, because I personally think he's out of position. But it is that conversation will continue to come up for the length of the season every time Joe Pirro is anonymous in a game. That's going to come up every single time. And if Georgina Rutter doesn't do something magic, this conversation is going to come back up again already. And we've talked about this word an awful lot, Lockie, and that's effective. And we talked about Dan James is effective player. He might not be the prettiest footballer in the world with the ball at his feet. He might not score tons and tons of goals, although he's having a really, really, really good season. Yes. But he's effective when you need in certain types of games. And we talked again about the fact that when you play a low block, maybe it's not the right game for Dan James. Maybe it's a game for Willie Gnonto or somebody with a bit more creativity. When we play against a low block, maybe it's not Joe Pirro. Maybe it's somebody else that goes in there, because Leeds need to be effective in those games, in those situations. And maybe this team isn't effective against every potential opposition that comes up against them.
And that's, people on my comments are talking about low block and say, you've got to find a way. The reason people do low blocks is because it's difficult to find a way. You're playing really deep. You're not allowing space. That's the point of it. Every team, well, most teams that play against teams that have the better, superior players play a low block for that particular reason. You stop them to give them space. Their creative players can't be creative. So how do you break it down? Well, there's not a real formula. Otherwise, people would stop playing it. You've got to be better than them. Your creative players have to take risks. We saw in the second half, Chris Somerville He got into that hole a bit more. He started taking risks. Jorginho Rutter found himself in that hole, started taking risks. We got chances from it. We overloaded on the left when we brought Nonto on. We took a risk because we knew if the deeper they sat, the less threat they'll have up top. So we just brought Nonto on, right? And played an extra attacker. That's not necessarily gun ho for me. That makes sense because I think we looked better when we did that because we knew and we were right. Coventry weren't creating anything after they won the ball back. We won it back straight away. And that's it for me. There's a thing that I don't think I've heard that I think we need to be better at set pieces. I don't think we're good at them, at attacking, scoring. Liam Cooper and Sam Byron, I believe, is there any more? I'm not sure. But we have a lot of corners. And we have a lot of free kicks around the box. No, it comes from them.
We double-figure corners. We double figures against Coventry in corners, and they'd none.
I can think of a header in almost every game we've had a free defender, and it's just gone straight to goalkeeper or wide. You know, Stroud does it. Rodon had one. Was it yesterday or the other week?
Diving header. He got from the Bamford. And
that's got to go in. Sure, that's a chance. They're big chances, and they're kind of going under the radar. And they give you goals in games. You know, look at all the best teams in the world. There's this misconception that they're all good at football. They are, but they're also very good at set pieces as well. That's a big part of it. That's the difference at times because it can get you 10, 15 goals in a season, which is huge. There's stuff like that, and it's about. I said it in my video about creating an angry Leeds and aggressive Leeds. And I know we didn't win the game against Coventry, but we saw that. You know, when the fight started happening, people criticised that. I liked it.
I liked it as well.
For me, that showed aggression and it got the crowd going. And when Leeds is angry, I think that's when we're better. Not angry at the players, but angry just at everything. That's what we're built on. You know, we're good at that. That's what it gives the players energy, and it did. Every time Nonto got the ball, he looked dangerous. Somerville got the ball, he looked dangerous. Rutter was playing more angry, and he played better. I think that helps us. Kamara was winning everything on the edge of the box in that last 20 minutes. He was winning everything on the edge of the box. I think we need that side of Leeds back. I went to the Cardiff game and the Watford game this season, and I'm usually one of the fans. I love screaming, I love shouting, I love singing. But there is a feeling there that you're watching it as opposed to being part of it now. Do you know what I mean? 100%. Because it's the relegation stuff and the expectation that we should win this. Whereas you compare that to the Bielsa years, we didn't have these players. You know, it was unknown. We were angry. We wanted to go back to the Prem after 16 years. You know, we've not got that side of it now. But I think seeing the reaction from Coventry and their players booting ours and the ref not giving it brought that anger out. And I'm hoping that Farke recognises that and sees at times, you know what, we can be that team. Well, we've got the best disciplinary in the championship or something, haven't we? Oh, we don't need that. We don't want that. Yeah, we don't want that.
No, we don't want that.
I'm not saying be dirty. I'm not saying this. I'm saying be aggressive. I'm talking about on the ball as well. When we're on the ball, Crete in that first half, he was too easy with it, passing it back, run at him. He did it in the second, and he was doing all these tricks, and he looked so confident. That we need those players more, and I think that's when the crowd the Ellen Road crowd gets going. It's angry, not the players, but at the situation. It gets them going for me, and I think that shows.
Feed off that though. You can hear that behind you. You can hear that it's not. You know the difference when it's directed at you. It's kind of a moany groan that echoes around in a circle around the stadium.
It's against the world, and that's Leeds for me.
Yeah, that's the way it should be, really. Yeah. And this it's a really good point. Look, and Andy, I'll come to you on this as well. But if you look at the last two games, I would say if you look at the first 15, 20 minutes, Leeds have been kicked out of the game. The players have been targeted. Dan James specifically has a horrid time in the last two games, with just being what I would refer to them as bullied. I was concerned about it against Sunderland. I thought they bullied us for the first 15, 20 minutes, but I thought the first 10 minutes against Coventry, we were actually really, really good, played some really nice football, and then we got bullied, and then the late tackle started, and the interesting thing was, there was 4 or 5 situations. Dan James was pulled in the first 30 seconds, caught the short pull back. By the letter of the law, and according to the referee's rule book, any short pull is an automatic yellow card. No yellow card given. Yeah. And then by the time we get to half time, they're on 7 fouls versus Leeds 1. And Leeds have a yellow card because one of our players got annoyed at being kicked off the park and being told by the referee he has to leave the pitch, which he doesn't have to leave the pitch because he was fouled and the referee gave a free kick. Yeah. That's where the argument started. And then Somerville gets booked for it. And you're like, right. There's a for me, and I don't know what you think of this, but for me, and on Lockie's point, I think Leeds have got to start going to games being an awful lot more aggressive, or expecting oppositions to be a lot more aggressive towards them. These teams seem to have a pattern. If you look at Coventry, it nearly replicated a lot of Sunderland. It was like they've watched the game and they've replicated the same things. Get in their faces, make it difficult, annoy them, upset them, and then we'll get the ball forward and we'll start building things. And that's kind of the way it went in a bit.
Yeah, I think a couple of points there that I'll make. Just starts on the referee. I think if he books a Coventry player early on, it's a completely different game. It sets the tone for the afternoon ahead. And there was one incident when Brad Collins, the Coventry keeper, was just time wasting, time and time again, and he booked him, and then he did it again, and he did nothing. And I think sometimes, and I'm not blaming the referee for us not winning the game, because I don't think we deserve to win the game. They've got to be stronger. And I thought Jeff Elton didn't have a very good game on Saturday, but that's by the by. But I think the aggressiveness will come. I think if you look at the two previous home games against Middlesbrough and Swansea, probably the strangest two home games you'll see. They came flying out the traps, 1-0 down very early on, and before you know it, they're in front in both games. So I think they've certainly got it in them. One thing I did want to pick up on, goals from set pieces. Been going through the records. In the last year, Leeds have scored 4 goals from corners. Liam Cooper against Bournemouth, Patrick Bamford against Crystal Palace, again we like to forget, Liam Cooper against Cardiff City, and I think Sam Byram got one headed in this season as well. That's 4 goals from set pieces. The last time Leeds scored from a direct free kick, you're going back over 2 and a bit years, against Leicester City at Ellen Road in a 1-1 draw. That needs to improve for me. They've got height in the team. They need to be putting balls in the box. For me, set pieces, you just put a ball straight in the box. I was on commentary for Hospital Radio on Saturday, and when Leeds take short corners, it frustrates me. Because if you put a ball in the box, straight away, you've got better chance of scoring. If you're going short corners, it allows the opposing team to get the defensive line sorted, and it gets more players behind the ball. If you put... Well, I did it against Cardiff the this season when Coop scored. Look what happened. They scored from it. So that's just a little wee bit. And the amount of times I'm asked, when's the last time they scored a direct free kick? And to be going back, 2 and a bit years is crazy. And I don't know what they're doing on the training pitch. I know they're trying to play nice football, and I get that. And we're third in the league, and we're in a decent position. But as you rightly say, Gary, it's just tweaking bits for Leeds, and we'll see what we get on. So I actually think they'll beat Ipswich on Saturday, because I think they'll be angry. I think they'll be
have to be.
Yeah, I think there'll be an eager beaver to come out and prove a point. Yeah, I think Farke was disappointed on Saturday by his post-match comments.
I said angry, Andrew.
Yeah,
I said he was angry on Saturday after the game.
And I think that's a good thing. As I say, you're not going to play well every game. It's impossible to play well in every game in this league. It's a relentless league. It's 46 games, and you got 4 games coming up in 10 days or whatever it is over Christmas. And I actually think they'll come out and they'll prove a point to us all on Saturday and come up to lead up to Christmas. Ipswich go to Leicester Boxing Day. Leeds play Preston. All of a sudden, the gap could be down to 4 points going into 2 more games over Christmas and New Year. Positivity.
See, world's not on fire. It's very doable, but it's about Leeds, what Leeds do for the remainder of the season. You know, these teams will have wobbles, they will drop points. We just got to keep looking after ourselves. And on the set piece thing, because it is a valid thing. Every time we get a corner, I remember Marcelo Bielsa saying this. Was it Bielsa or was it Guardiola? One of the two of them said this, but I know they both agreed with each other on it. There's a point to sit corners. If you're not going to score from corners, if you don't have players that are there to score from corners, then don't put anybody in the box. Just play the ball back into play and keep possession and go again. And I've done it once as a coach. I went, yeah, why not? Try it, see what it looks like. So it guarantees you that you keep possession, because 90% of corners you lose possession on, because it either goes into the box and it's headed wide, or it's dealt with and it's a break and a counter attack, or the opposition keeper catches it and they reset, but you've lost possession of the ball regardless. So there is an argument to say if you're not a good set piece team, then don't play into them, play out of them. Like deliberately play it short and go back to your full back and restart the game from there back in play. This is a really interesting point. I've kept a couple of points back from people who are putting questions. That's the wrong question. Good man, Jer. There are people putting questions in. I've kept back a few of them. This one here, Michael Pollard. Set pieces. There's a chap called Creswell on our books. Gets 6 goals from set pieces. He was scoring for fun from corners last year in this division and can't get in the team at all. And again, when you change to Farke's plan B, and Joe, I want to talk to you about this bit specifically. The plan B is get all the strikers on.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
I think we said this last week, Lockie, where we talked about if you're looking at it from a midfielder's perspective, if you've got 4 defenders on with 2 strikers to get that kind of a look, if you add 5 more to that, you just get this. A block of players directly in front of you, and then you're picking the ball in midfield and hoping you're going to find space to create something, which is nearly impossible. So you have to kind of go longer and more direct. There's not a point of putting on somebody like Charlie Cresswell at that point up front and going, if you're going to go gung-ho, put someone on the park and actually head the ball.
Klopp used to do it. I remember Liverpool used to put I can't remember. Used to put centre backs up top for the last 10 minutes.
Yeah,
he used to do it. Brilliant. People were like, "Why are you doing that?" And it'd work because the big lads and they can hold the ball up. They can win an header. You know?
And they're physical.
think-
They can cause problems. They can make space. They make themselves. Yeah, they fight with players. You know. Sorry, Joe.
No, it's because I asked Jacob this very question, and he used to do exactly the same at Norwich. And he said in the first season it worked. They scored so many late goals. So clearly, Farke believes this tactic works. So I think the funny thing is, Jacob was giving up this information before I even asked him a question. Do you know what I mean? He was like saying, "Yeah, so the subs on the 75th minute, they're throwing 3 at the back and 6 strikers on." All that sort of stuff he just gave up without me even having to prompt or ask. So it's like, it's something that they've done before, and he said it worked in the first season. They scored so many late goals. So clearly it's something that Farke's going to continue to do. Like I said, it's almost FIFA, champ manager, just throw everybody on, no disrespect. I would say Sunday League kind of vibe. You know what I mean? But clearly if it's worked for him before, Daniel Farke feels that it'll work again. And to be honest, like it did work against Norwich, coincidentally. I thought
Has it worked any other time?
I felt it could have worked against Sunderland, but the build-up was all wrong. And the reason I say that is because we continued to play tight when all we had to do was go out wide and put it in the mixer. You know what I mean? Kind of vibe. Because when we did, Pirro turned and shot, and Trey Hume blocked it off the line. So I just think if you are going to put on Bamford, Pirro, Rutter, and they're all going to stand in a central space, at least get it out wide and just put balls in the box. Because all it takes
otherwise
is
you're playing there.
Yeah,
because they otherwise go to their feet and they've got their back to the goal. So where's the ball got to go? Straight back where it came from. So it has to go wide,
Mm-hmm.
But Joe, outside of that, right? Because I don't know. I keep saying this is an idealist when it comes to football, but is that a plan B? Is that a plan B? It's just chuck everyone up top and go for it. Like, is that plan B, or is there? Does he have a plan B?
I remember. I'll put it this way, Joe. I was watching. I managed to get them shooting tickets to watch City the other week. Because I've got no money. I watched them against Leipzig, and they were 2 down. And Pep changed it up. He didn't bring a sub on, but he played a Akanji, and he played in the 10. Akanji was playing in the 10, and I'm going, what's going on here? But it worked. It was an extra body. It just helped. It helped in every way it could. It's not necessarily pretty. It's not beautiful, but it's like a set piece. It's a tactic. It works. Teams play for set pieces if they're good at them. It's what you do. It's playing percentage. Look, when they're playing a lower block, and they'd have no threat of scoring because they didn't in the last 15. Let's be honest. They had Sims up top by himself after that. After they'd scored, that kind of went. It was all us then, wasn't it? We were trying to get a goal. So Farke wants to win the game, and he put extra players on. And I think. I agree against Sunderland, it didn't work. But I think it didn't because we didn't get a point. We didn't get 3 points. But we created a big chance right at the end. We had about, I don't know how many corners in the last 10 minutes, but that was ridiculous. So that should be a chance to score from a corner, again, if we're good at set pieces. You create those moments, and all it takes is one of them moments to come off, and it's worked. But it didn't because we weren't clinical, or we didn't score from a set piece, and that for me is what it's about at that point in the game where you really want to win it, and I like that. He could have changed it like for like, and we could have just done what we've done, slow press build up. He wanted to win the game, and I kind of admire that. I don't know.
Yeah, I get that, but the low block thing just seems to be something that teams are going to continue to do against us, and unless we find a better way of getting around it,
we need a proper number 10.
So on that. That's good that you said that, because there were some questions that come in. So we're going to move on to questions. There was a comment there earlier on. I can't remember who put it in, but I'll find it in a sec. Basically, that we're not done shopping because we weren't done shopping in the summer. We tried to get Aaron's. We tried to get Aaron's. We tried to get Thomas. And we tried to get Amiri. So they were all players we tried to get and didn't get. So now Sam Byram potentially replaces Aaron's as an option, but or Spence does. We know Leeds are going to look for a left back. They've said that out straight. Amiri's the 10. He's not there. Thomas was the left back. Didn't get that one. So we know Leeds aren't done in the transfer market. We know there will be some stuff done this window. We've been told it's all loans, but that's okay. It doesn't have to be permanent signings right now. As long as they're good enough to get us up, then that's fine. I'm going to rattle through a few questions before we get to the just get the lads' thoughts on moving into the weekend's game against Ipswich. And I'll just these are all out of order because they're all got the whole stream, so we'll crack on and go through them. Doyle says, "Evening, lads. How do you feel about people calling for Farke's head? Who wants to take that? Open.
I will.
Go for it.
Ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. We went last season, we had 4 managers. Look what it got us. Okay, Jesse Marsh should have been appointed. That's a discussion for another day. We're third in the championship with a brand new squad. What do people expect? It's not going to happen overnight. We are going to have setbacks. It's a 46-game season. Well, we lost 4 games this season. We're unbeaten at home all season. We're the only team in the championship not to lose a game at home all season. We're the only team in the Football League not to lose a home game this season. Come on. If we were 15th, I could understand it. We're third. We're going to end up in the playoffs, worst comes to the worst. And to me, when you've got a new squad, the expectation for me was to finish in the top 6. Yeah, disappointing that we didn't pick up points because Ipswich didn't pick up 3 points on Saturday. But come on. Nah, not for me. You don't change a manager after 22 games, you're sitting third in the table. Come off it.
I would agree.
Yeah.
I'm not looking for. I'm skeptical about some bits that he does, but then I'm skeptical about 90% of managers. So there's always that little bit,
Yeah.
And there's very few that I've genuinely fallen in love with. I'm like, yes, love this man, and we know who we're talking about. We can move on. Right, next question. This is not a question. This is a challenge, I believe. Leeds content creator challenge. Don't shave your beard apart from Tash trims until Leeds get promoted. I'm already on the way. Joe gets a fresh trim every week. And
I'll do it, man. If other people are going to do it, I'll do it.
I'm definitely not going to do it. No, but it's a nice question, so thanks very much.
I'm
definitely not going to do it.
No, man, sorry.
Come on, Lucky, catch up.
I like looking like a child, Joe. You're 27, really? Wow.
I just look angry all the time now since I did this. I just look completely angry consistently. Right, Michael Pollard says, seems like Farke is getting outwitted by his opponents. Do we agree, Lucky?
No. Look,
being out-tactical.
I think we're disrespecting other managers because they are very good. They're in the championship. There's good coaches in there. It'll take someone's whole life to get to that point, right? So they're good. There's going to be areas in games where they have something that works. I don't think it's getting outwitted. I think we're having more possession, we're creating more chances, and we're allowing less chances every game. That doesn't suggest to me we've been outwitted. There is areas in games, obviously, we need to improve and we need to be better at, obviously. But they're the two ends of it. We create more chances than every team we play against, really, and we concede less chances, and we have more possession. So it's about working around that. Yeah,
100%. And arguably, when we win games, there's still areas we need to work on. It's never going to be perfect. It's never perfect. Joe, what do you think?
No,
I think Martin did. Russell Martin did.
Well, I would say that Michael Dodd at Sunderland did a very good job as well. And I think he also did the same against Corberan, which ain't an easy thing to do. He played Joe Bellingham in different positions, which shows, the foresight from him. But no, I think we as a fan base we're disrespecting our own manager, I think, personally. I think there's too many expecting the world, and he's doing really good, and I think we're right to question, we're right to criticize. There are clearly holes, but everybody's got holes in them. Even the best managers, like your Klopps and your Arteta, even the best, they have holes in them. But I just think, in terms of, and I keep saying it, in terms of the manager for where we are, listen, whenever I speak to any opposing fan outside of Leeds United, guess what? They all love it. They all love Farke. They all say he's the best man for the job. I've got a Middlesbrough season ticket holder friend that I met at a wedding, and he went, do you know when you got Farke in the summer? I was like, because they knew, because he knows what it is. And I'll say it again. For me, he's been there, seen there, done it. We have the best manager for the job right now. Best manager for the job. Because while all those are panicking, he's been here. Guess what, folks? He was here when our God was here and still won the league. Correct. And still won the league.
Good season that season. Good team.
Very good season.
Well.
And they
very good
only
second half of the season.
This is the point. And You sent them things, Lockie, before in our group chat where they went on like 9-10 game winning runs
after losing as well.
Yeah, I
That's the championship.
want to see
the
more
championship
of
has always been about runs. It's always been about
Yeah,
runs. You look at the second half of every season, and again, we've Leeds bias, so we tend to look at where Leeds are on the table. But look at all the years that Leeds were second, third, fifth in the playoff areas at Christmas, thinking, yeah, this is the year we go back up, and then we end up finishing 15th. You know, that's because we were bad, but also because clubs go on these huge runs. Middlesbrough last year went from mid-table to the playoffs. West Brom went from fourth from bottom to the playoffs in the second half of the season. So these runs are there. It's because there's so many games there. And as you said, Joe, you're right to be skeptical. You're right to ask questions. You're right to criticize. That's football. You're supposed to have opinions.
For sure.
But given how our summer went, given how we've forgotten about last season so quickly, the mess that it was of a club last year with the ownership, with the director of football
Can I ask you a question,
with fans
Joe?
outside the stadium. Yeah.
And can I ask the rest of them, rest of people in the chat?
Hang on,
Kieran
Joe.
McKenna.
Hang on. Before you do, Joe, I'm just now go for it.
Kieran McKenna aside, because he's doing bits. Is there any other manager you feel will be doing a better job than what Daniel Farke's doing at Leeds United right now?
Realistic manager.
Realistic.
Realistic one, yeah.
No.
Lucky?
No.
No, I'm not going to say Pepper out. That's ridiculous. No, like, if we're being realistic,
the managers
he's done it. He's won it twice. He knows it. He knows it like the back of his hand.
But it's all the other stuff that goes with it. It's not just his coaching, because he's not a coach. He's a manager.
Yeah.
He's the face of the club. He's the one that's giving us a little bit more credibility back in front of a camera, because he can talk articulately without saying stupid things or causing fights. You know, he's a level-headed person. And for me, I always said that the way things went in the summer, he was the best signing we made in the summer because of how professionally he handled an absolute shitstorm. I never spent my channel, but there you go. It was a shitstorm.
Really
and he managed to organize. He managed to get past that. And there's other managers that I like. I'm a big Carlos Corberán fan. I know that's been said tons of times. It's not a secret. But is there a better manager in all aspects of what a manager does right now? I don't think so. No, and definitely not one that would consider coming to this level. No.
I was going to ask a similar question to what you said, Joe. I was just going to ask everyone in the chat, are you guys here? Would you swap him for McKenna and Maresca right now? Would you do that?
No.
Maresca, no.
No.
I don't like Maresca as a manager. I think he's doing a great job for that stuff. I don't like it. I don't like him as a manager. Like I listen to his press conferences, I listen to his interviews, and it's when they lose, it's never them. It's always somebody else, you know. And it is real. I wouldn't change.
I genuinely feel so safe at this point in the season with him there. I really do. I don't think we can complain about stuff. Obviously, there's always things we're not going to like, but like when it comes down to it, delighted with him.
Just to clarify, the reason I said McKenna aside is the whole point of that statement is to say that McKenna might do a better job. That's the whole point when you say someone aside. Like aside from him, anyone else in this division that could be doing what he's doing with this squad of players, I disagree. And let's be honest, McKenna has a small sample size.
Yeah.
You know, Michael Beale was smashing it at QPR. Went to Rangers, done nothing. Now he's back at Sunderland. So let's not get too giddy. We've got a manager here who's been there, done it, and that's not from any script. That's just my opinion.
Yeah. Andy, what do you think? Would you replace Farke for anybody else? Is there anybody else you think will do a better job than this right now?
No. I think you've got to have a bit of realistic expectation with Leeds this season. That the summer was possibly the busiest summer I've ever known at Ellen Road. Even we went down from the Championship to League One in 2007 and obviously in the Premier League in 2003-4. There are going to be changes. Daniel Farke has been there, done that. We've tried Brian McDermott. We've tried Neil Warnock. Couldn't do it. I think he's got the right backroom staff. He's got the right set of players. I want to take you back to a game at Ellen Road back in 2018-19 when Norwich played at Leeds United. Leeds riding high in the Championship under Bielsa. Norwich just behind us. Daniel Farke did a masterclass into Bielsa. And they won 3-1 at Ellen Road and deserved to win 3-1 at Ellen Road and then went on to win the league. Anyone questioning Farke, in my opinion, I'm not saying I'm right, I'm wrong. isn't right because we're third in the championship. We're not
Yeah.
23rd in the relegation battle. We're in a promotion race, and we're going to have blips. We're going to have ups and downs between now and the end of the season. It's going to happen. If it's to be the playoffs, so be it. But at the moment, I think Daniel Farke's doing a good job. I think, yes, there's bits that we need to tweak. I get that. And look, Liverpool drew to Man United yesterday. Does that make Klopp such a bad manager? Guardiola's not has won in the last 6. Does that make him a bad manager? Every manager will go through blips during the career. Look at Fergie back in 1990 in Man United. He was one game away from the sack, allegedly, had they not won at Nottingham Forest in the FA Cup.
Yeah.
So it happens. Every manager goes through blips. And this is our little blip at the moment, and I'm sure we'll actually come out the other side of it.
There's a point on Kieran McKenna, and I just want to box this off. If you look at teams that have come up from League One, there tends to be one team every year that does a double, that gets very close to a double bounce. And there's not a huge amount between the top end of League One and the bottom end of the Championship. There's not a huge difference in the quality. So if you can get up there, you've got momentum, which is very hard to build in the Championship. That you've already got it coming into the league. You've got momentum. You've got a tight squad who've won something together. You don't win things unless you're a tight group of players. So you've got that as well. You've got a winning mentality already in your team. And if you can get a good few results at the start of the season, your confidence level goes through the roof. Your belief goes through the roof. And you can do it. We nearly did it. There's a litany of clubs who've come up from League One and nearly got promoted to the Premier League. Some of them done it. So McKenna's an element of that. But is he just the only element? Because weaker managers have done similar things to this as well. And again, the season's not over, so where they finish will depend on what the rhetoric is around Kieran McKenna. Very good coach, they play lovely football. They're an enjoyable side to watch, which is great for Ipswich fans. They're a good side. But we'll see at the end of the season where everybody sits. And as Daniel Farke keeps saying, at the end of the 4 to 6 game season, we'll know exactly where everybody sits. We'll know exactly where everybody is, and we'll be able to, comment and criticise then at that point. But I think, we wouldn't have been looking for Kieran McKenna. Could you imagine Kieran McKenna coming to Leeds to start the season after where he's been in his career? There's no way Leeds fans would have accepted Kieran McKenna. So knock that off. He was backroom staff at Manchester United. He is not going to be accepted as a Leeds United manager or coach. The same with Chris Armas wasn't, outside of the American part of it. He also, that background, it's just not going to wash. It's not going to happen. So you do what you can with what you've got. And we've got a really good guy who knows what he's doing. And as we've all said it, there's holes in it. There is. But there's also holes in Leicester because they've lost a couple of games. There's also holes in the Ipswich game.
Ipswich concede loads of goals. We'd be complaining about that, wouldn't we, if that were us? If we had him, we concede too many. It's going to change at some point. We're going to stop scoring. That's what we'd be saying. So none of them are perfect.
No, not even slightly. And again, I keep saying it. Joe, you said it at the start of January. I think it's the end of January. I think if you have a good look at the table at the end of January, I think that's when you start looking at the table. I think that's when those gaps start to... You start figuring out what points you're going to get to fill those gaps and where they're going to drop points. That won't start till the end of January. There's a ton of games between now and then, and I think by that stage the gap could be that size. Could be teeny.
I'm just having a look here as well while we're chatting in terms of like streaks and stuff. What
are you doing that, right, Matt? I agree with Matt on this as well. Leeds fans didn't spoil the Premier League football. I think there's now an expectation that we should 100%. Be in the Premier League, but you've got to work to get there. Yeah. Marcus says absolute batshit calling, having a conversation. We're not having a conversation about losing Farke. We're having a conversation with people who are looking for Farke to lose his job.
Yeah, I think I made that point on Twitter after the game and said that we as a fan base have become entitled because of 3 seasons in the Premier League. Because prior to Premier League football, prior to Bielsa, like when people tell me we're playing poor football and stuff, anything pre-Bielsa, that was poor football. You watch what we were churning out year in, year out, 13th, 14th, 15th in the Championship year in, year out. We had Bielsa. We went up. We thought we could do better. Ended up bringing in a car salesman. It went to pot. We got relegated, right? And now we have another great manager in. But it's like we believe because we've had 3 seasons in the Premier League. Like, no, we've got to be winning every game. It's some realistic. And as I've said before, there's people that didn't even have us, anywhere close to where we're at now. So I don't understand the outrage with it. I think Leeds United that we're doing all right, and bar the look in terms of stats to a championship season, Joe, there is only one team that is doing better than these 2, and that was Reading. And guess what? They've got the all-time record championship points total ever, right? Yeah. So it's just our luck that in our season, you've got 2 teams in 2nd and 3rd for the best championship starts ever. Prior to that, it's like Wolves, It's Newcastle with Rafa Benitez. We all remember that Wolves side under, what's his face? No, with Neves and co. You know, underneath that, you have Newcastle with Rafa Benitez, you know, and so this is the kind of level that they're operating at right now. And I just hope and pray that it's not sustainable and that they will have a fall off, because one thing I will say is Leicester aside, because their squad is class.
Very good.
You know, that's why I didn't get with the comment who said that we've got better teams than those above us, because Leicester's are still good. But Ipswich is not. Ipswich is not. So I'm hoping that they will have a drop off. But we've just got to see, haven't we? Yeah. Sorry, I'm ranting again.
No, it's great. No, Jesus, it's a podcast. That's the point of it. You know, going big long rants. That's fine. You know, you're banging the money, Joe. So I completely agree. Right, we're gonna wrap it up there because we are just approaching the hour mark, and I'm gonna go watch the Birmingham game. So I know everybody else is gonna do.
I'm doing a watch along if anyone fancies it. By the way, doing a watch.
Absolutely. Right, folks. Massive thanks to everybody. Before we do that, Lockie, anything going on your channel this week?
There might be a number 10 transfer video potentially if I can get that finished about who I think we should sign in that position.
Great, yeah, watch that. That's going to be interesting. Yeah, into that. Joe, what about you? Do you want to plug your little chat today?
Yeah. So there was great chat with Jacob from Canary Cast, just discussing Daniel Farke and whether or not, you know, basically it's just confirmed all the thoughts we had really, but it's quite interesting to hear it from that side. It depends how you react to it. You either go, I'm calm, or there's another side that go, oh, I'm worried. It's quite mad actually when you hear it. So I'm probably somewhere in the middle. I've got to watch along tonight, and then, you know, I think I might be taking a couple of days off because my mum's come out of hospital result. So I'm going to go see her in Halifax, I think, tomorrow. Yeah. So, but thanks for having me on. I enjoy talking Leeds United always, man. So thanks for having me on, Joe.
No, always welcome, mate. Always welcome. Andy, Stats, you're back. You and me are back on Wednesday or Thursday. We're gonna have a chat, and then Thursday we're gonna put a video out.
Previewing the big Christmas period.
Yeah, we're going to try and do a couple of games if we can in rapid fire if we can get a chance. So we're going to try and do that we're going to chat Wednesday night and then possibly have it out on Thursday evening. Andy, are you in Ellen Road at the weekend? Are you in the Coventry?
Yes, been at Ellen Road for the Ipswich game. Very much looking forward to a goal fest against Kieran McKenna's side.
It definitely will be, though, won't it? I think it will be. We're going to talk about that game in more detail. We didn't get a chance because we're at the hour mark now, so we'll wrap it up, but we'll get to this before the weekend anyway. Massive thanks, as always, to everyone who has joined in with the conversation. Thanks to everyone in the chat who's contributed and put questions in as well. If we didn't get to them, I'm sorry. Good conversations tonight. This will be available on Spotify, Google Podcasts, and other. The only podcast platform it's not going to be available on is iTunes because they want an Apple ID, and I just don't want to create one. So, it'll be on every other platform. You can get it there, and it'll be on the channel. So,
right there.
Waffle. Thanks very much for watching, and I will see you tomorrow morning for more Leeds news. See you. Bye.
Joe shouting at clouds, eh?